Hello everyone, this is a full guide on pistols and everything pistol related. It's geared more towards veteran players, but I'm sure everyone can learn something from it. I know I have. It also happens to be my first video, so I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so pistols are a ranged weapon that goes on the offhand with shorter range and higher damage when compared to the bow. There are 6 pistols, ordered by damage, 4 of which with an added debuff, and all 4 can be quite useful. Cannon will very often knock down the target, which will allow us to stagger him. It's best paired with the Rage Boon or the Wind Imbue. Bone Pistol is not as interesting, but it is a nice way to inflict haunted, useful on builds that make use of rune magic, the sword and the traps. You're likely going to want internalized Lexicon for this though. Obsidian. This is often the one to deal the most damage when taking the burning effect into account. And given how late game Chimera is, this will also commonly be the gun you will be using mostly. Chimera. Oh, sweet Chimera. Not only does it has the highest raw damage, but it also inflicts elemental vulnerability, which should add around 25% extra damage. It actually works very well on a lot of setups, both mages and melee, provided they have elemental damage. Ornate and Flintlock never play a major role and are only used until the better ones arrive. And finally, I'll mention this just to avoid confusions. The pistol's debuff will apply after the damage, so if you shoot cannon twice, the second shot will hit harder, because now the enemy is already debuffed. Pistols work by loading a single bullet and shooting. There are several ways to do that, but we'll cover that later. When we talk about pistols, it is important to mention that although a pistol can fire a single time before reloading, you can have many pistols and fire them one at a time. Now, onto imbues. There's Shatter, Frost, and Blood. While a normal reload takes 5 seconds, Shatter will do so in 3.5, which makes it more viable to reload during combat. It will deal a lot of impact. It costs 1 iron instead of 1 bullet, which should be slightly more expensive, and it has virtually no cooldown.
And it inflicts pain. So, how can we capitalize on that? Well, remember cannon pistols? It inflicts confusion, which means we can, with a single shot, inflict both pain and confusion. That makes it quite valuable on melee combat, but even more relevant if synergized with a couple of rogue skills. I think this is the best use of the skill, but certainly not the only one.
Frost bullets will load in 3 seconds, slow your enemy and likely knock them down, as well as add some nice extra damage, and converting it to frost, which is generally a big plus. Most enemies are weak to frost. The main downside is that it takes a kill boon, which by itself has a 120-second cooldown. You can counter this with cool potions, but those aren't cheap either, and not efficient during a battle. All in all, this is a great skill, especially for battles where you get to prepare, take your time, take multiple guns, and shoot them all at once. The best way to prove this though is just to show you.
Bad guy number 1. So, we want to debuff him with Brand first. There we go. Now we just shoot the crap out of him. And dodge his attacks. Now, okay, almost dead. Oop. Now, when it stops working, you just have to hit him again, and the next hit will work. There we go. Bad guy is number 2 and 3. Now, the Plague Doctor has some
resistance, so he has some more HP. Just dodge the light mander and kill this one. There we go. Kill this one now. Oopsie. Alright, easy peasy. So, this guy, he has a lot more HP than the others. And this doesn't have a lot of range. So, debuff him. Okay, that should do. Now, start hitting him. There we go. Oops. Alright. Almost there. Almost. There we go. He's got a lot of HP. Bad guy number 4. Let's debuff him. There we go. Get away. Start shooting. The first debuff with Brandy is the hardest part. And yeah, there we go. One final guy. Most people don't even bother farming this one. I wonder why. Okay, debuffed. He's got the most HP of all of them, but he does not have a lot of stability, so that helps. There we go. So, well, I'm not using much, right? I'm using Cool, followed by Frost Bullet, repeated on over 8 guns, and finally shoot them, right? So that's what I do, and for the skills I don't really have anything. I've got Shamanic Resonance to have 10% more damage, and Alchemical to have an extra 15%. On equipment I have an extra 55% more. Brand to debuff, the Chimera will also debuff. That's about it. Blood Bullet is very different from the others. It requires a target to actually load, it takes 1 second to load, deals 40 DK damage, requires a possessed boon, and costs 12 mana. Yeah, although the damage is nice, especially because you do keep the possessed boon, it's not really the main focus. 30-second cooldown is a lot to be an offensive skill. With that said, the heal is pretty awesome, and when evaluating this skill, we should be comparing it to the other ways to heal, not the other ways to make damage. So, it takes 1 second to heal 40 HP during combat with a 30-second cooldown. The other options are the Runic Heal, which takes 4.5 seconds to heal 40 HP. It can be done in 4 steps. And the Potion, which takes 2 seconds to heal, either 50 HP or 300 if large. With these numbers, I'd say it's quite unfair with the other two, which makes it extremely underrated for its usefulness, probably because it requires a breakthrough that is not as famous, unlike the rune. Alright, that was a lot of info. There's just one more thing to mention. The Wind Sigil. Firing any bullet inside the Wind Sigil will double the damage as well as convert it to electrical. This makes for a popular strategy where you hold many weapons and fire them in a row from inside the sigil for massive damage. This only works for standard shots. If you have imbues, those will be used instead. We have reached the end, and don't forget, this was my first video, so I'd love to know your honest opinion on what's good and bad. I'd love if you could leave it in the comments.